Are we products of our environment, or do we have free will? What makes me, me? I'm pretty sure we meant, like, literally, what is it? Like, are you an angel like I imagine, with a bountiful bosom and giant white wings, or are you, well, a giant cockroach with white wings and a bountiful bosom? Hello everyone, I'm Echo, and welcome back to the Innsmouth case. If you do not remember what this game is, because it has been a while because it has been a while since I last played this game, here's a little recap of what went down last kind of playthrough. We managed to hitch a ride with a strange stoner after we needed to make our way to the Innsmouth, and we had absolutely no funds to get there because our business is completely failing because we're drowning ourselves in alcohol. From there, we made it to the hotel that is managed by the Hunchback of Notre Dame. From there we discovered a crazy room where it seems that our predecessor may have been staying, may have slept with Delilah, and may have never been seen again. Then we proceeded on through this, onto the main, town square, where we'll be heading once again, and we discovered a strange fish person looking to stalk and hunt down and probably skin alive a tourist family who were completely oblivious. After having knocked out the fish person, we traveled to the police station to warn them of this dangerous criminal, only for the person behind the counter to very quickly make it clear that we were not in good hands, and seconds later we were thrown in a cell with what I believe was our other predecessor, who scolded us for being so goddamn stupid, and then proceeded to try and fight her way out. Or maybe we fought our way out? I think we fought our way out, and failed, got knocked out, taken to a ritual site in the middle of God knows where, and cut open for an ancient, horrid god, after having corrected everyone's terrible manners when it comes to dealing with someone speaking, half the battles with the audience, especially when it comes to ritual sacrifices. So today we're going to return to Innsmouth, and specifically the town square, and we are not going to... I'm sure there's endings before this, but for the time being we are going to stick with going from where we've gone, and then eventually I'll head further back, because the car and other stuff were interesting, but not interesting enough. This time we're gonna head down to the docks to investigate down there first and foremost. See who will try and get us alive then. Innsmouth Town Square, the beating heart of the city, a big attraction for local tourism. It is animated by groups of visitors who are chatting away in the sun. A lot less animated are the lethargic locals who are lurching about the square. A rather creepy looking fountain is in the middle of the square. Yes, this is what the Innsmouth case is, if you don't remember. A gigantic fish-like stone statue stretched its claws towards the sky with water flowing out of its menacing jaws. The water sprays into the air, providing a refreshing breeze to tourists sitting around the edge of the fountain. Looking at it closely now, it all rather looks like a giant, drooling fish monster. The square is surrounded by handsome, old buildings, although the side streets reveal the true Innsmouth, crumbling facades just far enough away that the average tourist doesn't notice them immediately. You also notice the mean grimace of gargoyles. Oh, gargoyles. Every fucking time I see the word gargoyles, I always stumble over it and it's like, what? It's because it's one of those words you just never see. Hell, I have read old Stephen King books, new Stephen King books. I have read several fantasy books and real life books. I read several things by Lisa Jackson, and never once have any of them used the fucking word gargoyles. I don't think Harry Potter's used it. I never see that fucking word and it makes me look like an idiot every goddamn time. You also notice the mean grimace of gargoyles sternly looking down onto the visitors from the corners of their buildings. You make a mental note to block out the Innsmouth architecture in future. At first glance, you can see the town hall and police station behind the fountain. There should be a few more public facilities nearby, but you don't notice anything right away. Go to the fountain, go to the town hall. Let's not go to the fountain, go to the police station. Last time we went there, we got captured. Scope out the surroundings. I thought we would go to the docks. Maybe we had to start somewhere else. Let's get the fountain and try real quick. Pretty relaxing vibes here, so you decide to go over to the tourists. There's a lot of space on the edge of the fountain, which people use to sit down. They're stretching their legs, eating their packed lunches, they're studying maps of the town. The perfect place to go and relax. Sit somewhere quiet, or close to other tourists. Somewhere quiet. You trip over... The trip over here has exposed you enough to weird people, and you can do without carbon-based life forms for a while. It's the 1980s, that kind of thought process isn't exactly around, is it? You sit down on the fountain's edge, off to the side from other visitors, letting your mind roam. How is it possible that a girl can simply vanish in a tiny place like this? Oh yeah, if you don't know, the kind of overarching case that we're trying to investigate is the fact that someone's niece or daughter, I can't remember who, she was trying to sleep with us at the time, so things are pretty distracting and innuendo-laden. But we're trying to find her because she's gone missing. We don't quite know where to, though. She's run away from home. Where would she have found shelter, and where would she get her food from? Has she been kidnapped after all? And isn't it normally cute children that get kidnapped? Something brings you back to a real world. A rather shaggy looking older man on crutches rattles a paper cup in front of your face. This is new. He smiles, revealing his rotten teeth. Give him some coins. Give him some coins. The old man looks so worn down that it breaks your heart. You search for coins in your trouser pockets and find some coins. He smiles gratefully when you drop the money into his cup. The beggar looks around fugitively and then leans over to whisper something in your ear. You should leave. Slightly dazed by the smell of alcohol in the man's breath, you lean back and watch him shuffle off. Did you hear that right? You should leave. The nerve of it. I'm glad to see the back of this drunkard. Oh, he's worrying you for good reason, mate. You look over the dark alleyways across the square, and you repeatedly notice shady figures with bloated faces who keep looking at you and the tourists. You start to feel uneasy again, here in the middle of the square at this fountain. It's like you're all sitting ducks. The sun that was so warm in your face suddenly disappears and is replaced by a grayish silhouette. Isn't that the way it always is around here? Gray, dark, all that stuff? Without noticing them beforehand, two men have approached you. They smile nervously and appear to be presenting you with a book. Your insides clench up and your fingers dig into the stone of the fountain. You know this kind of smile. Oh. They are lawyers, mole people, religious fanatics. Okay, I didn't know about this. I guess this is the arc we're going down. They look like Mormons. And fish people. They definitely... Okay, these aren't even like... Maybe they're just a little ill or have been ill in their life. These just straight up look like fish people. They are lawyers. Lawyers, you moan. Time to focus. Like a negotiation Zen master, you are suddenly aware of every single muscle in your body. You don't move a millimeter because you know. They can only see you if you move. It seems to work. The smile on the face of the men appear to falter. One of them nervously licks his lip. All of a sudden you feel it. Like a tiny treacherous snake, a bead of sweat runs down your temple, across your cheek to your chin. Two men take turns clearing their throats. The blonde one starts to talk while his partner hovers in the background and breathes heavily. He holds up a book. The green cover has a dedicated golden... I don't know that word. Arbisque pattern that reminds you of something. Do you have time to speak about the Dagon, our Lord and Savior? He puts on his best salesman smile. Dagon? I'm looking for this girl, you see. I'm looking for this girl. You pull out the Polaroid photo from your coat pocket and show it to them. Their polite demeanor immediately vanishes, and you think you can see weariness creep into their faces. Slowly, they turn their heads towards each other, then nod, just as if you weren't standing right in front of them. If you need help, you can always rely on the Church of Dagon. The man, I would not call these two men. These are boys. Very much boys. The man hands you a small white card with an address in the harbor engraved on it. You study the card, you can feel the texture surface under your thumbs. Not bad. The two say their goodbyes. For two religious nutters, they seem to be very keen all of a sudden. Indeed they do. Interesting. The Church of Dagon is the prima donna religion in this otherwise godforsaken town. An exotic cult in a remote, secluded community. You're not quite sure what to make of it yet, but for now you consider the two to be harmless, mostly. Okay, enough time wasted. Where are we at now? Enter City Hall, enter police station, go to the Church of Dagon in the harbor. How the fuck have we gone on this train of thoughts? Innsmouth Harbor is signposted much better than the local hospital. You wonder if a hospital is even needed here. It's a half-hour walk. A mile-long carpet of cobblestone is now ahead of you. Traffic in the Boston is more hectic, but at least they have heard of asphalt before. As you keep walking, there are fewer and fewer residential buildings along your path. In their stead, there are now warehouses that must be fish markets due to the smell. You can also hear the occasional metallic clank from nearby workshops. People in gray raincoats are walking towards you. They are probably fishermen who have some errands to run. Now and again, in the split second when you pass one another, you catch a glimpse of the faces hidden under the hoods. Puffy eyes that look at you suspiciously, although there are a few clouds in the sky. There's no chance of rain as far as you can tell. Why are they all wrapped up like that? You wonder if they have a sixth sense for approaching storms. The sound of rhythmic blows of a hammer nearby tears you away from these thoughts. It would be interesting to watch the work in the shipyard, but little Tabitha is unlikely to be here to play. From a distance, you can already see the mass of boats which rise up in the sky like a row of spears. Walk along the small streets at the quay? You walk along the small streets at the quay? That's either a mistype or something I've just never heard of, or harbor kind of words, harbor language I don't understand. With the harbor basin just behind it, breathing sea breeze. Look around. Last time we looked around, we got gutted like a fish, and around here that may be just as literal as it was the last time. The view of the harbor is splendid. Boats of all shapes and sizes are coming and going. Nets are being emptied out, and fish seem to be endlessly splashing into huge freezer boxes. Local traders are being sealed with handshakes, and at the end of the wide headland, a huge lighthouse watches majestically over the bay. The ideal postcard motif, if it weren't for the people. You only know fishermen from the movies, and you have to admit that you have certain prejudices. These include, they have weather-beaten skin, and the captains always have well-groomed beards. They are either strong, silent types, or hard-drinking lads who sing filthy sea shanties. But these creatures in front of you are neither majestic nor liary. They move around more like tragic hunchbacks you'd expect to see in a French cathedral, or the Hunchback of Notre Dame. You know, the guy that manages the hotel. A few yards to the right, there's a fork in the road and a road sign posting further north. Its inscription reads, Innsmouth Paradise Beach. In the far distance, you can see a building that looks like a church. Hang on, a church! On the coast? How intrinsic. To the beach, to the church, to the lighthouse. Ah, we were going to a church, but the lighthouse has me. To the lighthouse we go to summon out our gods. Initially, it looked as if the lighthouse was quite close, but as you keep walking, you realize that the trip is much longer than you expected. Ooh, I like that. A path consisting of jagged rocks leads to the lighthouse in the harbor. The lighthouse is on the end of a narrow strip of land, and as you walk towards it, the surging waves risk to drench your clothes in icy salt water. It takes all your concentration, some balance, not to wipe out on the slippery rocks. In your mind's eye, now new bills are already fluttering in the mailbox, one of the shoe repair shops, and one of the what the fuck? Psychosis therapist? An overturned wooden sign lies on the ground between a few rocks. You read the label. Warning, absolutely no trespassing. As if that's gonna stop me. Innsmouth hasn't been precisely inviting since your arrival, so you already know that the tune. You approach the lighthouse, looking for shelter, but with every step you take, the place becomes more and more welcoming. The gray clouds transform into a mighty storm. Lightning strikes the top of the tower and sparks fly. Despite the storm, the lighthouse keeper hasn't put on the signal, so there is no beam of light to guide the boats out there safely to the harbor of Innsmouth. Soon, you are completely drenched, but you make it. At last, you're standing at the door leading inside the lighthouse. Some joker scratched something into the flaking white layers of paint on the surface of the door. Do not come any closer, they want your body. Oh, here we go. This sounds suspiciously This sounds suspiciously like a UFO sect, a sex cult, danger. Based off my previous decisions thus far, what do you think I'm gonna go for? Answer A, answer B, answer C, or answer B? I think it's gonna be answer B both times. One hears about these sex cults all the time. You regularly watch documentaries about them on special websites that you visit in incognito mode. It's the 80s. I don't think Chrome exists yet. This special and intense form of what the fuck? This game is introducing me to words I've never seen before. Prepartization, something like that. Should have taught you everything you need to know and do if you ever encountered a cult. You tuck your underwear into place and walk purposely forward. After all, you're on a mission. You decide the danger this duplicit old building may hold, a fragile building about to collapse. UFO nutters with aluminum hats, sex-hungry, mindless, and naked cultists, or house dust. Not to mention the missing girl that you need to find. Still, how often do you come to a place like this? Not very. Almost automatically, your hand comes to rest on the black iron door handle. Pushing it down slowly and carefully, the door opens a crack, giving you a small glimpse into the neglected interior of the lighthouse. Ooh, darkness. Enter. Unsure what to do next, you peek into the darkness. It's a dark, tall building, a very, very tall and thin building. Admittedly, it is highly unlikely that the lighthouse will collapse today of all days. At least, that is what you keep repeating in your mind, like a mantra. You step inside. It's dry but cold. The icy, stale air cools your shivering limbs even further. A spiral staircase leads up to the higher levels and to the top of the lighthouse. On the higher floors, you can see round windows in the side of the wall, through which thunder and lightning throw brief flickers of light. Even the lowest corridor catches some of this light, so that you can find yourself not completely in the dark. There are also some lamps with wind wind up along the banister. The black and white tiles of the floor have probably not been cleaned since the dawn of time. Storage boxes are cluttered around the place and taken up about a third of the area of the ground level. To your astonishment, the walls of the lighthouse consist of a solid stone foundation. The metallic red and white painted exterior cladding must have been installed sometime later as a modernization measure. You think that a sex cult in here is now a bit unlikely, but you do not want to give up hope just yet. Okay, I need to repeat that simply for the starting clip of this episode. You think that the sex cult in here is now a bit unlikely, but you do not give up hope. You never give up hope on encountering a sex cult. What now? Flick the light switch, inspect the boxes, flick the light switch. What's the worst that could happen? Trying won't hurt, unless, of course, you blow a fuse. You flick the light switch and wait in the twilight for something to happen. You know from old lamps in the cellar that they need some time. They need a little time. You flip the switch again, and again. You come to the conclusion that you had to make do with the pale daylight. Is there much daylight left? And you look more closely, you realize that there's an inscription just above the light switch. Read it. You manage to make out, activate to close the electrical circuit. Electricity powers many machines, especially those giving off light and warmth. Indeed, that is how light switches work. Inspect the boxes next. Considering that the lighthouse is easy to reach from the port, it strikes you as odd that there are all of these supplies here. Fair enough, yeah, that is pretty weird. The boxes seem to hold food supplies, which make up the bulk of the goods, and loads of spare electrical parts. Okay, the electrical parts make sense. That's not always super easy to get a hold of, especially for a lighthouse that probably would need to fix things fairly quickly. You inspect one of the open crates that, according to its label, has been delivered by a company from Salmon. Spare lamps, tools, writing, in theory even a dusty system, such as this one, can be brought back to life with all these parts. The food is not quite to your taste, but efficient, but effectant. Tuna is secret. And all kinds of canned fruits still fill over half of the open crates. Click too fast. Okay, climb up the stairs. Oh, God. Climb up the stairs and don't overclick this time. The banister has suffered the most age damage. The revenges of time have not only worn away the paints on the metal, but also the iron struts and pillars themselves. The scaffold seems to move precariously as you walk up, just as if the construction is about to collapse. When you're halfway up the stairs, you can hear a loud metallic creaking sound. The stairway suddenly jerks down a little, and your insides feel like they're continued dropping to the ground. Fine dust flutters down onto your head. You try to guess the depth of the fall. If the structure were about to collapse now, you would break quite a few bones, or worse. The chances of you getting caught up in a sex cult decrease with every step you take. Sure. Just because the core of the spiral staircase is a bit loose, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to collapse, right? And perhaps it's just the residual alcohol in your bloodstream that's causing everything to spin. You carefully continue your way up to one of the highest floors, about 30 feet above the entrance in the first mezzanine floor. A metal plate in the core of the spiral staircase would also provide some stability if the whole thing wasn't so damn rusty. You can see a plain bed, a desk with a telephone, a chest of drawers, and a wardrobe with an embedded mirror. The pristine carpet is Parasane carpet. Parasane carpet is laid out over the ribbed metal floor, a pathetic attempt to make this room a little more homely. At least there's a window on this level. I'm pretty sure lighthouses can have like proper carpeting or wood flooring or other things of that sort. I'm pretty sure they're not like metal death traps, but then again, this one is literally a metal death trap. Rain pelts against the glass. The weather outside seems to get worse and worse. You hesitate. Inspect the room more closely. So much to explore here. Some neatly folded sheets and bedding have been placed on the bed. Waiting a new inhabitant, perhaps? You turn to the desk. On it are a few envelopes and an atlas. And the envelopes. You grab an envelope from the stack. Your fingers glide over the rough, fibrous paper. In the faint light, you can see how yellow the envelope is. Or this was specifically made paper from the crafts shop, or these letters are pretty old. The envelope is not sealed, so you fish out 10 $100 bills and a piece of paper with strange doodles that don't make sense to you. Is that a language? The characters are too chaotic for a normal text, going across in rows, back again. In the back, you find a small text in English. Means of payment necessary for the purchase of goods and services, valid from to, with some doodles instead of a date. Maybe it's art? No, you want to know something? I'm pretty sure, like, the Lovecraftian language, the language that's used in Lovecraftian books for, like, elder gods and stuff, I'm pretty sure people have kind of, like, translated it. Or at least translated it into something that makes some amount of sense most of the time. So if I could see that, I could maybe translate it. The only question is whether you're going to pocket the money or not. Of course! The envelope has not been sealed, nor not a soul around for miles. You need the money badly. You briefly try to convince yourself that the money might go off. There seems to be something of a shelf life implied. You can't think of any better arguments, and even those you'd be hard-pressed to accept as an excuse for your behavior. Hastily, you stuff the bills into the inside pocket of your jacket, and that's where they are now, right above your heart. You put the scribbly paper back into the envelope, but that's exactly how you found it. Precisely like that. You inspect the bed. Doesn't look super cozy. There's no pins to the headboard. Place of rest used for sleep cycle and procreation rituals traditionally used during the nighttime for care instructions and terminology check. The rest of the notes is not legible and covered up by strange scribbles. Maybe we did run into a sex cult. You inspect the atlas. The atlas from 1984 is still in amazingly good condition. You think that it had been sitting here on this desk for decades waiting just for you. You look around the table for contents and then flip through the atlas. Some pages are marked. Areas in Antarctica and Australia are marked with strange curlies. Antarctica makes sense. That's where, like, Mountains of Madness, that's where that occurs in the Lovecraftian books, and I think several other events do kind of occur there, and I think that's where, like, the Elder Gods are supposed to be in that world, kind of trapped there. That's why it's such a desolate wasteland, to try and deter people from going there, going to a realm that once was ruled by ancient beings. The music got extremely quiet for a second there. That was concerning. In addition, pages about the United States, the state of Massachusetts, and surroundings of Innsmouth are marked. A yellow road map of Innsmouth has been stuck into these pages like a bookmark. Lighthouse is marked. On the last page, you find an entry. Land mass distribution and political territories, valid for blank, followed by a series of the same curls. You put the book back how you found it. Interesting. The telephone. It's an old telephone with a dial plate. Just for fun, you pick up the receiver and get a dial tone. Next to the phone is another note. Communication apparatus connects acoustically to other similarly constructed equipment after the identification number is entered. Identification numbers can be attained in person or from the central registry provided. Under the phone are two old books dating back to the 70s. The first one is a customer electrician's manual. A short leaf through shows you manuals and construction plans for TVs, cameras, telephones, radios, and cars and the like. The other book is a Boston phone book. There's a bookmark peeking out from the side of it. When you open the book to that page, the phone number of a carpet cleaning company is marked. Sure. On a whim, you decide to call the number. Maybe someone on the other end has an explanation for all of this. You know that it's very likely that the shop is bankrupt and the connection has been switched off. After all, the number is from the early 70s. To your surprise, there's a signal. It seems to ring at the other end. After 4 or 5 rings, someone actually picks up the phone. Instead of a voice, you hear a series of strange clicking noises, as if a giant cricket or an angry lobster were at the other end. Click, click. Hello? Hello? Anybody there? The clicking sound on the other end ceases and a voice comes through the receiver. Cole's carpet cleaner, James speaking. How can I help you? I'm calling from a lighthouse. I'm calling from a lighthouse. A lighthouse? Really? Have you ever looked at the sea from above? There's something quite surreal about that answer. No. You should definitely do that. The view is breathtaking. It goes so far as to say it could change your whole life. But if you're in Innsmouth, there's nothing I can do for you. We only clean carpets in Boston. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do. Hang up. I should have read that in, like, my shitty Boston accent. Nothing else. You think you see enough and continue to follow the banister up the stairs. Meanwhile, thunder and lightning outside become so furious, just as if the center of the storm is the lighthouse itself. You may not be wrong about that. Stoically, you continue your way upstairs. The banister continues to wobble and squeak suspiciously, but it withstands the strain. The radius of the spiral staircase gradually becomes smaller. You estimate that you are now halfway up the building. You walk past another platform floor. This level is obviously used for nothing else but storing boxes. These 30 or 40 stacked boxes filled to the brim with books. Ooh, seeing all these books cause a warm and fuzzy feeling, a pit in your stomach, definitely. How adorable. Not quite. The previous lighthouse keepers must have been bibliophiles. You hope that you get to meet them, even though this place does look pretty deserted. You hesitate. Inspect the books. You take a moment to examine the boxes and their contents more closely. Quickly, you realize that these books are exclusively non-fiction. You discover lexicons, grammar for English and Spanish, non-fiction books on biology, chemistry, physics, and geography. There is also a Bible, a guide to Innsmouth, and a worn handbook for tourists on the East Coast. Out of interest, you flip through some of the books. The newest ones seem to be from around the 80s, but some go as far back as the 20s. Many are decorated with strange curls around the edges. In the last box, you find a few books that differ greatly from the scientific character of the rest. These are books about occultism and obscure religions, titles like The Mystery of the Worm, Unspeakable Cults, and Liber Ivoris. Then there are also a book by a popular UFO nutcase, and suddenly everything makes sense. Maybe the lighthouse keeper was a little soft in the head, probably the loneliness. You keep walking up the stairs, past another mezzanine, and then you're on the upper levels of the lighthouse. It's getting more and more unlikely you'll find anything relating to your case here. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we may still find a sex cult. Honestly, the note on the bed gives me hope. Oh well, up to the last level. The last steps are always the hardest, or was it the first ones? No matter which steps, your heart is now beating so strongly that you can feel it pressing against your chest. Once you're back home, you should really consider a healthier lifestyle. So it's not beating because you're scared, it's beating because you drink and live on alcohol. At last, you reach the top floor of the lighthouse. Dulled glass windows separate you from the thunderstorm outside. Rain pours down on the panes, and the lighting occasionally illuminates the sky and reveals the bellowing sea. If you were an artist, this would be an idyllic place to paint tasteless paintings with ships on the churning waters. In the center of the floor, there is a metal column that must be there to support the lighthouse uppermost platform. You assume that all this serves to stabilize and balance the construction. Apart from that, the floor is completely unfurnished. Sheets of paper with strange doodles are affixed to some of the window panes, pencil portraits of people, trees, houses, dogs. Around each drawing, someone seems to have made notes, but you can't make out the language. You wonder if it was a disappointed artist who lived here towards the end, or some sort of Russian sleeper agent? Another ramp leads to the top of the lighthouse, where the actual lighthouse apparatus must be installed. Walk up these steep stairs. You have done it! You made it to the top of the lighthouse. Not in a million years did you think that this job would take you to such an exciting place in a boring coastal town. There is still a nasty thunderstorm out there, and the lighthouse keeps illuminating the glass cage in erratic intervals. So bound, you look at the roaring waves. The beautiful, the powerful and steady movement of the waves, the foaming salt water splashes up so incredibly high. They're so enticed by all that majestic beauty that you almost wish you were outside now, to feel the fresh sea breeze on your skin. But wait, why did you come here again? You tried to tear yourself away from the endless spectacle of the sea and turn your attention to the center of the small glass dome. It is then that you make a curious observation. The lighthouse has no light at all. There is no light construction that could rotate in the direction of the harbor or the sea. Not even a flashlight on a microphone stand, where you would expect some sort of electrical machine. There is only a black column about 3 feet high, whose curved forms emerge at the top into a kind of marble plate. An altar. A voice in the back of your head informs you. There's a cube on the altar. You look at the cube more closely. Intrigued, you walk closer. The material of the cube must be bronze. It glistens dully in front of the black marble column. The object looks as if it belongs just there. It's perfect right where it is. Everything looks as if it's been made from one piece. What you first thought was some arbitrary decoration turns out to be hieroglyphic canes, simple tools. Cranes, simple tools, knowing eyes. Curiously, you walk to the column on which the cube rests. What are Egyptian hieroglyphs doing in a lighthouse on the east coast of the United States? Your fingers are itching. You touch the cube, take the cube into your possession. You know what? We're this deep into it. Screw it. Just for a brief second, you simply have to hold the bronze cube in your hands. You feel the texture of its surface on your fingertips, inspect the hieroglyphs more closely, measure its exact weight, smell it, lick it. You have to know absolutely everything about it. You extend your hand and touch the cube. And now you can't let go of it again. It seems to have melted into your skin or somehow attached itself to you. Yes, it has sucked itself onto you and continues to suck your consciousness and your soul. Everything is now trapped in a never-ending slipstream coming from this cube. You feel like you are caught in a mighty vortex that pulls you deeper and ever deeper. All of a sudden, you have a strange out-of-body experience and start to see yourself from the perspective of the cube. You feel something unbelievably strange beside you. Some sort of being has emerged from the depth of the vortex and is passing you by to float in the opposite direction. Your soul is swallowed by the cube and something strange occupies your body. Loosens the last anchors and pushes you over the edge. You cling desperately to your mortal shell, and then your consciousness starts to crumble. For a brief moment, you think that from the perspective of the cube, you looking into the eyes that no longer belong to you, then everything goes black. And that's an ending, apparently. Whoa. As you wake up from restless dreams, a bright light shines into your eyes. It feels like a brain sensation directly penetrating into your brain. After the initial shock, you gradually come to your senses. You are no longer in the lighthouse. You find yourself in a huge round chamber made of dark smooth stone. Carved lines adorn the walls and give off a soft fluorescent glow. You begin to wonder how many hours you've been knocked out. Did you have a stroke? No wonder, given all the stress you constantly put yourself under. A sound, a chirping and clattering that vaguely reminds you of insects. Only it's louder. It seems to be coming from directly behind you. Someone's in this room with you. Turn around quickly, trying to find the source of the clattering sound, and you regret it immediately. Hideous, bizarre monsters are lined up in front of you like on the set of a bad horror movie. They're basically just huge cones of flesh covered with a thin film of slime. Oh, what the hell? That's gonna make for one hell of a thumbnail. You instinctively think of Slugs, your landlady. Fond memories of a hot evening one August, Mrs. Vollegrant was once again upset about a missing payment, scolding you at the same time, sweating in the yellowish light of the evening sun. Sweat formed on her face and collected on her upper lip. You were completely hypnotized by this sight, which was not conducive of the ongoing rent negotiations. But right now, you have other problems. Very much so, we have other problems. The flesh cones are a bizarre sight. Your mind is having trouble processing what it sees. At the top of the flesh cones, there are 4 tentacle-like growths, each in a different organ. 2 form huge, sharp claws that appear to be clicking incessantly. Now, the one ends in a jumble of trumpet-like tombs, and a fourth forms what you think is the head of a creature. A round organ with 3 eyes, a set of fairlies. What, the tentacles? Above, in a ring of tentacles just below, 6 of these creatures are now staring at you from their bright yellow eyes, clicking their scissors maniacally. One of the beings breaks away from the group and comes towards you with its claws raised. You do the only rational thing. You try and run away. Not gonna happen. Try and fight. You start to scream. Or at least you want to scream, but unfortunately, no sound comes from your lips. The creature comes closer and closer. The creature moves like a snail. It has no legs. Rather, its base keeps expanding and contracting, moving its way not slowly, but that somehow makes it worse. The way it moves is not slow, but that somehow makes it worse, yeah. The panic in you rises as you watch this monster approach you slowly, methodically. With all your strength, you want to scream again, and this time it seems to work. You manage to produce a sound, but instead of a scream, you only manage to let out a gurgle burp. The creature stops. It looks baffled. It's impossible to decipher these completely strange facial expressions, yet you could swear that something you did made it stop. There's a moment of silence, and then the creature begins to clatter with their scissors. Not only the creatures that was on its way over to you, but also the other monsters standing to the side start to click frantically with their claws. Their weedy arms flap about like soft noodles, their heads sway back and forth. It's almost as if they're laughing at you. You're confused, and where did that sound come from? Why can't you speak? You try to touch your mouth. But instead, your hands, these scissors at the ends of tentacles, appear in front of your eyes. Where one of them, you stare down at yourself in disbelief and find yourself transformed into a monstrous vermin. Where you were expecting to see your legs, there is only a fleshy cone from which 4 tentacles grow a pitiful claw arm, like a trumpet-like extension, and your neck. You are no longer in your own body. What is happening to me? You ask yourself, but you already know it yourself. You are one of those monsters. You faint. You should be able to understand me now. Open your eyes. You're still in the same position when you lost consciousness. Only a brief moment seems to have passed, but what is this pinching feeling on your neck? You look at a small device that has been attached to your new body. Waking up in a new body is disturbing. I understand that. So, first of all, let me reassure you that this state is not permanent, and when you return, you won't remember anything. You hear the voice not through your ears or comparable organ in this body, but directly in your head. What you hear is the clicking of the scissors. I've attached a translator device to you. We can now discuss all the questions you no doubt have. Eventually, the being communicates with each other via their scissors. One of the creatures begins to bob its head again, gently waving its arm, which it translates in your head as sort of a mad giggle. The creature right in front of you begins to talk. Excuse my colleague, you can't be aware of this, but you just produced the most impressive fart we've ever heard. What the fuck? The madness edge is nonsensical nature of the situation is just throwing me off the edge. Okay. Well, this off to a good start. So, what would you like to know? Who are you? The creature strains up. The translator's head begins with an air of gravitas. The great race of Yith. We are the wisest species in the whole of creation, countless eons ago, but also in the distant future. We made it our mission to gather all the knowledge of the universe. We sent our agents through space and time to observe and study. When we learned of our own demise in this way, we transplanted our spirits en masse into this form that you now see before you. Your new friend seems to want to do a playful pirouette to show off his body, but since he is resting on a slimy snail's foot, the process takes a good 2 minutes. Snazzy, isn't it? So functional and sturdy. His scissors rub against each other, which your device translates as a bashful coughing. Anyway, to answer your question more directly, I am Merent. My colleagues and I are archivists in the Great Library of Pencontus, Department of Human Studies, Western Hemisphere Subdivision, a peculiar American working group, or as we call ourselves, the Tough Macrobites. I'm not going to try that one again. As if they rehearsed it before, the other Yith in the room begin to shout, Tough Americabats. Of course I had to say it again. Great, they're nerds. Oh my fucking god, they're gonna rip you to shreds or maybe not return you to your body. Why are you trying to insult them? Pre-nuclear American? What do you mean by pre-nuclear American? We've had nuclear power stations for a while now. Meriton makes a dismissive gesture with his hand, claw. Oh, don't worry about it. Where am I? The creature is thinking you're in Australia. You've always imagined Australia differently. The important question is, when are you? Clicks 1 from the beginning of the furthest back in the room. The creature close to you abruptly turns its long neck towards the heckler. Damn it, Frank, that's my favorite part of the newcomer lecture. Don't spoil it for me. Although you do not have yet much control over your new body, you can apparently roll your eyes. Okay, when am I? But the creature in front of you seems to be in such a huff. Man, it's no fun now. You're on Pangea in the pre-Mayan period in the late Paleozoic era. Where in the distant future Australia will one day arise above 250 million years before we picked you up. Okay, that's another time travel? I've traveled through time? Now it's the creature's turn to roll its eyes. To make this brief, yes, you did. Like on TV, just completely different. No, we don't keep a record of lottery numbers. No, we have no interest in killing, fascists while there's still children. No, we cannot start any paradoxes. This universe is predetermined and free will is an illusion. Wow, thanks for the lecture of time travel, you dollar store doc. Yes, I forgot the name. You can burn me in the comments for it. Yes, that can be a bit depressing at times, but also very liberating if you think about it for a moment. Yes, we also know about Back to the Future. Motherfucker stole my thunder. Any other questions? Yes, if you can time travel, why do I have to wait here for years for my body to be released? Would it not be possible to send me back to the point in time where your colleague leaves my body at this very moment? The creature nods slowly. Yes, you'd think, wouldn't you? For your explanation. Ask about sports bets. There must be some way to make money off this situation. I love how that keeps being our go-to thing. Fine, no lottery numbers. What about sports bets? The creature throws his scissors in the air in frustration. What is it with you people in sports? I once watched a 100-meter race done by one of our subdivisions. The two most boring days of my life. So what would you like to know? What happened to my body? The translator transforms your thoughts into clicking sounds. You can only hope that the pressing nature of your question has not been lost in translation. Can you fuck off? Yes, that's the unpleasant part of the lecture. You touched one of our carefully placed transmitters, so your mind was switched with one of our agents. Carefully placed transmitter? You mean the cube? The cube at the top of the abandoned and locked lighthouse in the forgotten backwoods village in the middle of nowhere? I guess the transmitter is placed in a way that ensures that it is only found by people who are not easily missed. While you are here, our agent is gathering vital information about your society and environments using your body. You are to remain here in his body and must wait until he has completed his mission. Then we will erase your memory so you won't take any of our superior knowledge with you and send you back. How long does that normally take? The creature answers sheepishly. 3 to 10 years max. This information hits you like a kick in the stomach, and which in this body seems to be at the very bottom of the fleshy cone. It's very unusual feeling. 3 to 10 years? You mean Earth years? What am I supposed to do in the meantime? Well, we've got a lot of things to read around here. Also, we'd like you to write down your life story for us. An autobiography for the Great Library, preserved for all eternity. That's mainly comprised of alcoholism and depression, with bits of a few hookers in and about here for the ones that actually would touch us. A bit of immortality most beings in this galaxy dare not even hope for. But I'm on a mission. I need to find a little girl. People are counting on me. The creature looks at you with something that, even despite the strange facial features, you managed to recognize as skepticism. If your mission was so important, why did you waste so much time in the lighthouse? Good question, actually. You need to accept that your mission is over. Try to use your time here productively. Mention your vegan diet? Do we have a vegan diet? At this point, I can't remember. I made so many strange decisions that honestly it wouldn't surprise me. I'm hungry. I only eat vegetarian food. Do you have any good vegan snacks? The creature nods confusedly. Strange question, but yes, it is very important that the food is completely plant-based. Oh, don't worry. We're all vegetarians, there are no other food options. Our species has evolved to the point where we have been feeding ourselves for ages without harming other intelligent life. Somehow, this answer doesn't make you as happy as it should. Yeah, that's the way to go. Maybe not. Maybe we don't. There's no sense of that usually feeling of moral superiority that settles in when you talk about your eating habits. You feel a little down. The Yith cackles incessantly with its scissors. So, should I get you something to eat? Oh, never mind, you say grumbly. Not that hungry after all. So, what would you like to know? I have no other questions at this point. The creature seems to be baffled by this. Really? None? Nope. Okay, in that case, we'll set you up for training so you can get to know your new body a bit better. Once you've made some progress, we'll teach you to write in Yith, and then you can start with writing down your life story. Frank, can you give me a hand here? Claw, you mean? Frank rides with a machine that looks like a mix between a forklift truck and a spatula. Wait, what? He carefully scrapes your currently still useless snail body off the floor and transport you out of the room. What the hell is happening? First, you learn to control your new body. The trumpet-like extension, which simultaneously serves as a breathing organ, mouth, and waste outlet, provides to be the biggest challenge. You can only eat if your whole body is working on the task. You almost suffocated several times while you eat. You sincerely hope the agent using your human body is doing a better job of it. Yeah, I need to know, do you guys actually know how to use a normal human body anymore? Like, yeah, you're all knowing, but that doesn't mean you naturally know how to use a human body. Like, he didn't just suffocate in my body the second he joined it, right? You start to learn a curved script of the Yith. In fact, everything in the culture of the Yith is curved, smooth, or circular. They have an extreme aversion to right angles. When you ask Frank about it, he replies something about the dog of Tyndalo, who lives in the corner of time and haunts time travelers. Fair enough. You start to settle in. All in all, Yith proved to be quite boring people once you actually get to know them. Their bodies do not allow for much mobility. They have no sense for fiction, and they reproduce via spores. A very impersonal process which ensures that sex and love and all the dramas associated with them are completely unknown in their society. Since you are living in a host body, you are not allowed to take drugs or participate in any exciting or dangerous activities. The vegetarian food of the Yith is either very bland or their taste buds are not very developed. Perhaps it's by design, since the species takes in and extracts food through a single organ. You would kill for a bag of potato chips. Then comes the point where you are asked to write down your autobiography. You write a truthful accounting of your life, a mix between spy stories and adventure novels with a sprinkle of karate. Oh, do I screw with the time travelers or do I be truthful? I mean, if I'm in someone else's body, they're not gonna kill me. And they have to transmit me back to my body before their friend can come back, so what are they gonna do? Kick me in the dick? I don't have a dick anymore, I think. Your fictional biography has it all, except from your life as a secret agent, bomb countdowns that are interrupted only by the last second, exaggerated romances with political enemies, twists. It's all completely fabricated, but you don't care about that. You create a piece of pretty damn entertaining literature that will get the various juices of many a Yith flowing. If you regret one thing, it's that you are not enough, that there are not explosive scenes with hackers, scenes with hackers. You give a shrill hoot, the Yith evaluate a equivalent of a deep sigh. It'll have to do, otherwise you end up rewriting the whole damn thing. After a few dull moments, it's finally time for a party. In a large hall, one of the archivists give an extremely long and boring lecture on the importance of that seed oil in various human and post-human civilization. All the Yith gather around small bar tables in the area and listen intently as they sip on nourishing slime, which is slightly sweeter than usual. Afterwards, there's a competition in solving quantum equations. The different working groups, complete with a nerdy and terribly boring team names, compete against each other. Archivists of your working group, the tough acrobats, are kicked out early by the athletic pre-humanities, and the prescient Lathamans to lukewarm applause. It is practically an organist celebration by Yith standards. Orgastic. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be orgasmic. Celebration by Yith standards. For you, the most important part of the evening is the first contact with other guests of the Yith. Other beings pushed out of their bodies by the agents of the library and hurled through time, stranded around in their guest bodies, and talk to each other quietly. Fortunately, they have small name tags on which you can see not only their names and working group, but also their species of origin. With you at the table are two creatures who are identified as George, post-Mohammed Irushan Homian Spanies, and daughter of second Amazon desert approach megapilic. Okay, you're just making up words at this point. You have the urgent need to talk to someone to avoid dying of brain hemorrhage due to boredom. You talk to them. Right. Not gonna be like a pretty lady, just gonna be that. Right there in front of you stands the mind of a completely alien being in the body of another completely alien being. How do you even start a conversation like that? Do you both even speak the same language? Feelers start to twitch. Hey baby, did it hurt when you fell from heaven? Yes. Hey baby, did it hurt when you fell from heaven? You don't know exactly how to talk to strange beings. After all, you've been on blind dates before. Ziggy looks at you irritatedly. Of course it hurts. How did you know that I had a cramp in my wings once? Because when I look in your eyes, I think you must be an angel. Wait, what? You're halfway through your chat-up routine before you realize it's going somehow differently to normal. It seems very confused. What is this about? Are you trying to chat me up? Is this some kind of mating ritual? Okay, human, my ancestors evolved from giant cockroaches, but even I find this pickup line too trashy. Giant cockroaches? Giant cockroaches, what a strange thought. Giant cockroaches? How would you manage to survive with all the surrounding humans? Oh, I only know humans from prehistoric museums. They've gone extinct. Apparently you can't cope as well with radiation as we do. Fair enough. Which is strange, since it was you who contaminated everything with radiation. What do you mean contaminated? Humans, dude, humans. Well, after the big war in which you wiped yourselves out. We would never do such a thing. I'm sure that's far off in the future. You've got to admit that you're feeling a little queasy in the general direction of your Yith stomach. You've often wondered, even fantasized, how mankind might exterminate itself, but when it is being described by a creature from the future, it doesn't seem quite as fun a thought experiment. Okay, I'm sure the point where we all blow ourselves up is from the future, you say optimistically. Celia meets your dismissive gesture with her claws. Oh yes, don't worry, the nuclear war only happens at some point in the 21st century of the Common Era, and most people die before that anyways. I'm sure you're off the hook. The viewers start to twitch. What actually is that? what actually is a that? Zeke begins to look dreamily in the corner of the hall. That is an excellent question. Are we the sum of our experiences, or are we our actions? Are we products of our environment, or do we have free will? What makes me me? I'm pretty sure we meant, like, literally, what is it? Like, are you an angel like I imagine, with a bountiful bosom and giant white wings, or are you, well, a giant cockroach with white wings and a bountiful bosom? A lesser detective would have been able to do anything with that answer, but you hung out in enough student pubs in your time to recognize a first-year philosopher student when you hear one speak. No, I mean biologically speaking. What is that? Do you come before or after humans? Her eyes focus again. Oh, those are descendants of beetles that must have lived in your time. We come about 500,000 years after humans. I believe you call our ancestors cockroaches. A giant cockroach discussing philosophy. Brilliant. Ask something else. Oh, fine. Your instinct to leave this place begin to gain the upper hand. I'm gonna stand somewhere else, you say, by way of clacking your scissors and then moving your fleshy body a few yards away from Zilg. Talk to George, lead the party. Yeah. Screw it. This is how you pass your time. Despite your initial bumps, you end up getting more closely acquainted with George and Zilg. Your shared fate is what ties you together. Over the coming months and years, you end up becoming friends and sharing common interests. So most of your time studying human history, trying to produce nicotine replacements. Oh my god. It's actually gonna make us act these out. What is the point of... what would be the point of studying human history? We're gonna have our mind wiped as soon as we leave this place. After you have come to terms with the fact that a millennium-old race of researchers has stolen your body and planted your consciousness in an alien body, you have only one goal in... you have only one goal. You need a goddamn cigarette. Fortunately, all the knowledge of humanity is at your fingertips, so you waste no time in reciting the deadly nicotine rules that you love so much. The nicotine itself turns out to be the biggest challenge, but fortunately, biochemists of the Yith have no objections when you turn up at their labs one day. With single-minded focus and ambition, you experiment with plant samples, bacteria, and carnivorous viruses to create the drug that you crave so much. The enterprise gains momentum when George finds out about your project and insists on supporting you. After countless plant samples collected from now perished plants have been destroyed in your experiments, you finally manage to produce a synthetic nicotine-like substance which you roll up into a bit of ancient parchment. It's only then that you realize a Yith without a mouth or a lung system is incapable of consuming a cigarette. Fuck. Finally, the day has come. You are being led in the transport room. It's the same room you arrived in so many years ago. When the process starts, you overhear two librarians talk. You have erased this participant's memory, right? I thought you were doing that. Oh shh, and you're gone. We should have studied human history. Fuck. And we're back. Boston, your apartment. How did they know where our apartment was? You wake up as you've woken up many times before after drunken nights out in some dive bar, after awful parties at which you drank yourself into a stupor. But it's different this time. The flickers before your eyes cease, the agony and disorientation give way to a sense of clarity that you rarely felt. Your normally slightly hazy thoughts are clear, not a shallow pond, but crystal clear lake. Your memory is filled with knowledge from the intensive studies you have undertaken in the great library. So much knowledge. Your gaze wanders to the room in which you find yourself. The room sits there calmly between these four walls, these four well-known walls. You're at home on your sofa. Well, technically it's not your sofa. It's a completely new one without the bugs and rats that had moved into a nest in the bottom. Everything is unnaturally clean, and the sofa does not seem to be the only piece of furniture that has been replaced. Later, you will find out that the Yith, who had swapped places with you, has not only used his 6 years for highly effective studies, he has also applied a position at a larger historical museum in Boston, successfully, of course, because the Yith do not do things by halves. Your eyes light up as you read the numbers on your last paycheck. You hold the paper so closely to your face that your nose brushes the paper. Twice a year, twice as often as you normally would, your possessed body has contracted your family, given what appears to be completely neutral, boring, and meaningless confirmations that you are fine. There are postcards from your relatives sending greetings from their holidays, postcards which say that they are proud of you, proud of what you managed to turn your life around. Damn. So I guess all of our life's woes that trailed us in the past aren't quite as bad. That's certainly one way of putting it. The Yith have eaten well, fresh fruit, the prescribed daily minimum vitamins, proteins, and fibers to make his studies as effective as possible. The Yith also exercised. In the bathroom, you look at your body and stretch it in front of the mirror. Take off one layer of clothing after another. 6 years have gone by. Intrigued, you look at your face in the mirror. A few more wrinkles for sure, yet you feel that your life is only just beginning. And there we go. That's one hell of an ending. Yith we can. You spend 6 years of your life among the Yith, as if you had anything else going on. And that is that. Yeah. Once again, that's kind of how these episodes are gonna go. Unless, like, a particular storyline we go down takes an excessive amount of time to do, that's in general how this is gonna go. We're gonna work through each of the storylines and get an ending most episodes. I'm just curious, what is that, let's say? 42%. Yeah. But we're gonna end this episode of the Innsmouth case off here. Very, very interesting. I think next episode we may pick up back at the center fountain, but at the point where we were talking with the lawyers, and actually go to the church this time instead of wandering off to the lighthouse, or maybe the beach. One of those two. We'll go back down that path. The previous path that we went down, we're basically slowly working our way down each path. We went down one path which led us to the fishman, to the police station, to the cave, to the bloodied ending, the stabbed ending, and now, you know, so on and so forth. We're working our way through each of the individual endings that we can get to. And so we're gonna just kind of, eventually we'll end up back at the park and end up either staying away from the fountain or looking around, or maybe taking down the fishman, but taking his money, but then not going to the police and instead going somewhere else. I'm not quite sure. I don't quite know how things would change up there. That's the thing, just gotta figure it out. Right now, I'm gonna end this episode of the Innsmouth case off here. If you enjoyed, think about leaving a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Other than that, be good, be well, and I'll see all of you in the next one. Goodbye.